Welcome, pod lovers, to another See You Next Thursday podcast. How are you, Buttercup?
I'm still recovering from doing the Tuesday one.
And it wasn't.
No,
It was
it's the shock
actually
of you having an interesting anecdote to tell.
the shock of Ronaldo's Greek godlike physique. Shock. Let's get stuck in, Treacle. Let's start with something really uplifting and positive and humanitarian. Did you hear about Ben Foster rescuing an 80-year-old dementia sufferer?
Yeah, that's class. That's brilliant by him.
Let's give it a bit of background. Basically, Ben Foster's driving along the road
Home after the game, it was.
Yeah, okay, yeah, with his family. I think he had.
Yeah, because the bloke
relatives.
had been to the game. That was where he was walking home from because his car wouldn't start.
So his car's broken down, and this 80-year-old dementia sufferer is walking home in the dark, and he's fallen into a ditch. And Ben Foster sees him, turns the car around, and basically he's fished him out of the ditch, and basically said to him, he's kind of.
Well, what happened was they took him home, cleaned him up, tried to find out where, because he wouldn't tell them who to phone because he didn't want to, because he's got
dementia.
Dementia, that's it. And they'd been trying to stop him going to games because he's got dementia. Don't think he's safe to go on his own anymore and all this. And he's like, he didn't want to lose, didn't want them to stop him going to games. So they just took
probably
him.
Doing him a favour, by the way, with Watford playing at the moment.
Yeah. But they fixed it, cleaned him up, took him home, showered him, cleaned his clothes and all that, and then took him home.
Yeah.
And, obviously, he's telling his family this story, and they're thinking, okay, I think it's time we put you to... this is it now. You've obviously lost the plot completely, because that didn't happen. Obviously, you didn't meet Ben Foster. So we're going to have to see, consider what's happened. Next thing, there's a knock on the door. It's Ben Foster's missus saying, you're still all right to come over for Christmas and that, aren't you? To him, because I'd invited him for Christmas. And they're like, so, it's Ben Foster, his missus invited him for Christmas and everything, and then, so, now they realise it actually did happen. It wasn't just him losing the plot.
And they've, Ben Foster's said to him that he'll take care of his season for next season.
Yeah, I know, it's brilliant.
What a classy gesture. I mean, to actually, how many people really, would have turned that car around? So most people would have just driven off. And, to offer him Christmas dinner as well as come around and a season ticket.
Yeah, did you hear what his family said, though, when he said he's going for... One of them said, hey, but you always come round ours, Dad. He's like, yeah, but this is better. This is... Yeah. Usually I do.
Yeah, Ben Foster wins. Yeah,
shoddy, but this year I'm not.
Do footballers get a bad rap for being arrogant and conceited and all about themselves, but a lot of them do stuff for charity and do some wonderful things behind the scenes. And fair play to Ben Foster for this, because it really restores your faith back into humanity. When I actually read this story, it was such an uplifting experience, and good for Ben Foster.
You can't argue with that. Lovely.
All right, mate. You arguing with me is I got used to it now, so I was expecting some contradiction, but I'm glad there wasn't any.
No, I couldn't think of one for that one, can they?
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine? You'd have been real... Yeah, can you imagine?
Saying, no, he's an arse, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
He should have just left him there. What's wrong with him, man?
Yeah. Mate, next up is Sean Dyche and Steve Bruce being critical of Tim Robertson, the referee for their game at the weekend, saying that he made his debut, his Premier League debut at that game, and why didn't they give him a big game? And one of the big top 2, 3, 4. I mean, he's got to start somewhere, right?
Well, exactly, and I didn't think he was as bad as they're making out. They were saying things like you could tell he was new and stuff, and I just thought that's. Well, obviously you haven't made it easy for him, so maybe you should look at your players and yourselves and think, well, help the lad out. He's got to start sometime, hasn't he?
Well, mate, to be honest, the referee that's one of the most experienced, Atkinson fella, makes mistake after mistake after mistake every game.
Yeah, he was terrible at the weekend, wasn't he, Atkinson?
Exactly. So it's not as if, and even Oliver makes mistakes. So it's not as if, because he's new, he's mistakes. It's just human. It's just human. I mean, the guy's got to make a start somewhere, and you've got to give him confidence,
Yeah, maybe if they helped him a bit more, the players, and actually thought about stop diving and cheating and claiming for everything they know didn't come off them.
Yeah, exactly. It made his life a lot easier.
Yeah,
I thought that was bad form from for both of them, Dyche and Bruce. Criticised.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, they make mistakes. That's what they do. But
yeah. All right, mate. Talking about managers, Chris Wilder taking Sheffield United to in the league. Honestly, I give him the manager of the year now. What an absolute miracle he's performing there.
Yeah, I mean, much as Klopp's doing working wonders, you've got to say fair play, Chrissy Wilder. Brilliant. And they're playing excited. They're good to watch as well. I know it can be physical, but I don't mind that myself. I don't mind them getting stuck in. What I mind is when they're getting stuck in and then their players, a bit like Ashley Barnes of Burnley, where he throws himself at players, fouls them, and then jumps onto the floor and wins a free kick, claiming he's been fouled when he was the one doing the foul. That bothers me. But Sheffield United are more, they're just physical.
But that's part of the game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind that. I like that.
And that's part of their DNA. They've always been physical, up-and-out characters. But the other thing is, he's got an actual tactical blueprint. He's actually very tactically savvy.
Yeah, I like the overlapping centre-backs and that.
Absolutely.
Very
and
watchable.
I think, like you said, very. And what I'm saying is, if like you said earlier, Klopp wins the Premiership and Wilder takes United to top 6, I honestly think Wilder should get Manager of the Year.
Yeah, and I love Klopp and that, but you couldn't really argue with Wilder getting it.
No, absolutely not. That's ridiculous what he's on a budget as well. And the most expensive player was, what was it, McBurney?
Yeah, and he turned out to be a complete arse, didn't he?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that their pool of players they've got where they can buy from is so much smaller than the other bigger clubs.
And a lot of them came up with them from League One.
Yes, they did. Yes. You're right. I'll tell you what I really like is that Fleck player. Fleck.
John Fleck, yeah, ex-Rangers.
Very, very good player.
Yeah.
Very good player. I think he's got. How old is he? Do you know?
Mid-20s, I think. I think he must be about 26, 27 now.
I'm not sure he stays there that long, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see that. That Lundstrom's done well, considering he's come up a long way from... started at the bottom at Everton, and he's worked his way up to Sheffield United. You've got to say, well done, lads. And if Jan's listening to this now, I'm dead. I am so dead this year.
That was genius, mate. All right, mate. Let's get on to talking about Everton. Ancelotti getting sacked at Napoli and getting replaced with Gattuso. I think that's I know there's a lot of politics going on in the background and everything, but hiring Gattuso to replace Ancelotti, I think will never. I think Gattuso is a very journeyman.
But you got to remember this. Ancelotti was the one of the Bayern players said his son's football team coach has better coaching methods. Remember when he was at Bayern, and they were out out training in the they had to go to the park to train and stuff. So.
Is this consistent of Ancelotti wherever he's gone,
soft.
Or is it
he's
just
very soft?
fire?
I mean, he takes a great team and gradually, they don't really perform to what they should be. He's won things because he's had wonderful teams, but he should have been winning everything with the teams he had. You know what I mean?
So why is he beloved by the players?
Because he's a lovely man. To them. He's a lovely man. Everyone likes him. So, it's like that nice uncle you've got. You love him, but when you were a kid, you were played up for him because he was so nice, and you knew he wouldn't tell you off.
Right, and the only reason he's got success is because he's had superb. He's had fantastic.
He's not bad tactically in that, but the problem is he's just too soft on the players,
Okay, so
he doesn't have them fired up for every game. That's why he does better in cups, where where players don't need someone to get them up. Don't need motivation because obviously it's a cup game and
right. They're up for it naturally. Okay, so that leads us nicely on to. It's coming out in the press today that Everton are targeting Ancelotti. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't see that as a good move myself. Like I said, nice guy, but I mean, he is a good. If he coached hard and that, he's a good coach, but he just doesn't push the players hard enough. He's too soft on them. I think it's a mistake.
Will his age have a factor? Will his age have a factor as well? He's 60 now. Do you think he's on?
No, that's no age for a manager. Italian managers carried on in their 80s and that, and still winning things. The problem for me is they need someone a bit like Duncan Ferguson has done, has come in and kicked their ass and got. They needed someone who produced more discipline because Marco Silva's a soft one as well. It's a soft touch that they all like.
Is there credence in the Ancelotti rumours?
Well, yeah, because Everton are trying to get him. Okay. Arsenal approached him as well.
And what happened?
As far as I'm aware, I don't think it's going anywhere with Arsenal. I don't think he was keen because they were the same as they asked Marcelino, what would he take over with these players here? And, he's taken one look at them and gone, sod that for a game of soldiers.
But then the players at Everton aren't.
Yeah, but Everton will spend big money.
Now, let me ask you a question. You say Big Dunk's gone in there, right? And he's kicked him up the arse. Would there be a school of thought to say, give him the job to the end of the season and reassess at the end of the season? Or are they thinking, well, they want Ancelotti. They're never going to get a better time to get him.
They want to get him in.
Go for him now.
Yeah. That's the plan. Get him in now. Right.
Now, I would that guy at the head of sport at RB is it Ralf Rangnick?
Ralf Rangnick, yeah.
I don't think he's a bad shout, to be honest.
I think he's a good one
for Everton. But I think the fans are underwhelmed by it, right?
Yeah, but then, how many of the fans would know anything about him? Whereas Ancelotti's got a big name.
That Rangnick plays some delicious football.
He did, yeah, and he set the template for RB. When people are saying about how great RBS and RBL play, that's as much down to him as any of the coaches.
So he's doing what Julio did at the French team as well. He sets the blueprint.
Yeah,
but doesn't Nagelsmann play his own football, or does he take Rangnick?
He follows the Rangnick, but it is. I mean, but he's been picked because he does that style of football anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah. I see what I mean. Yeah. So
it's not like Marsh where he's a new coach up and coming. So you give him the template to follow. You've got no idea what he played before because he didn't have any job before. So this is his first job, so it's different. With Nagelsmann, you could see he played the right kind of style they wanted to continue with. So you bring him
top of the league, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You can't complain, can you?
Can't. Tottenham have got that's a bad draw, Tottenham, because they're playing some lovely stuff at the moment.
Yeah, Tottenham certainly aren't at the moment. It's all very Mourinho.
But to be honest, he's got somebody else's players, so he needs a good two transfer. You know, so when Mourinho gets his players, we can judge him then. Mate, talking about Everton and Big Dunk, I would love to get your thoughts on him subbing Moise Kean after 19 minutes. So subbing a sub.
Well, do you know, this is a number of people have all said the same thing, and I think the same thing as well. I agree with what they're saying. It's like that, when you get a new boss at work and he finds someone to sack just so he can show he's the boss, rather than he's actually done anything particularly wrong. Moise Kean wasn't playing that badly. He wasn't standing around with his hands on his hips, not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Moise Kean, right? Moise Kean, he won neither of his 2 aerial battles, made no successful tackles, completed 2 out of 4 passes.
He was on the pitch 18 minutes, and I'm not being funny. Everton were under the cosh.
Mate, Adam Lallana does that in 90 minutes.
Yeah, but he's played up front. He was playing up front. I mean, against the team that's pressing. I mean, for a win, for an equaliser, to get back.
Don't you think that Duncan Ferguson's been in football long enough? He's an ex-player.
I think Duncan Ferguson's a dick, to be honest. So no, there's no point telling me that he knows anything. He's been there for all these years when Everton have been crap. He's been part of the coaching staff. He's partly responsible for where Everton are. So no, I don't think he knows what he's doing at all. I think what he did was humiliation of a young player who's far better than who's a far better talent than he's got a right to. You know what I mean? He's got more talent than Duncan Ferguson ever, and I'm saying that as in Duncan Ferguson was a very good player, but Keane's a much better player than Ferguson in talent-wise, potential talent-wise, I should say.
He hasn't shown anything this season.
Yeah, but he's moved to a new country, doesn't know the language. He's been dropped in and not given any attempt by the club to help him settle in. They've done nothing for him. He's just been left to his own devices. He's a kid who's been you've got to remember, this is a kid that's been treated like dirt back in Italy because he's black, and he got loads of racist abuse and that. He goes over to a new country and he's just ignored basically by the former manager. He doesn't get any kind of help to settle in. He doesn't get anything at all to get used to the culture and all that. He just gets left to his own devices. Sort yourself out, lad.
But my question is, Duncan Ferguson is a former player. Don't you think he would be sensitive to a player's feelings?
No, because he's an arrogant man. Very arrogant man. I don't think he cares. He just wanted to show he's the boss. The one thing you don't do is when a player comes off, you do not ignore him the way he did. That, especially after what you've just done. If he'd have come off and he'd have said to him when he's coming off, I wanted you to work harder, you let me down, or something like anything, you've got to acknowledge him. To ignore him the way he did was disgusting. That was humiliation.
So you think he just that situation was just because he got it in his head, I want to show the world.
No, I'm saying that's what everyone else keeps saying to me is what they think, and I can't really think of another reason why he done it. Because he wasn't that bad. I know you're saying these stats, but stats are misleading, as we've already said. I mean, Divi got in the previous podcast. Yeah, Divi would have got an assist for miskicking the ball to Salah.
I get that, but I don't have any problem with a sub being subbed. I don't think that's.
But there was no need to sub him. I mean, what did Niasse do that was better?
Let me finish. I don't think your position's untenable if you are a sub. I really don't believe that. I think you can be subbed if you're a sub. I'm fully, if you're not playing that well. Yeah. But what he should have done was he should have given him a hug or stretch his hand out or talk to him. That was absolutely out of order. Not speaking with him or connecting with him when he came off. Because that is absolutely humiliating.
But there were plenty of other players he could have taken off that were performing just as badly. So I take off a player. So. I did. They were all struggling at that point. They were having a, it was like they were under the cosh a bit, getting pushed back.
Right.
He's playing up, playing up front. He's not getting a touch of the ball. I'm not being funny, but at that point, Calvert-Lewin, who I like the lad, but he was struggling. You know what I mean? He wasn't exactly getting on the ball and performing miracles or anything. He wasn't doing anything.
By all accounts, Calvert-Lewin had a decent game.
Yeah, he did, but he was at that point. He wasn't playing. He was playing no better than Moise Kean at that point. So.
Right.
Why not take him off? He's been on the pitch for 88 minutes. Get him off. Have him. Get him out an early so he can get an applause from the crowd. From the travelling Everton fans. Receive a bit of claim because he had a good game, and get the lads on up front.
Maybe he wanted tall, aggressive, physical players up. So he took Keane's off. But the fact remains, I listen.
You don't you take them off because they're having an absolute mare. You don't take them off when they're like that, because that's just humiliation. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter whether forget the ignoring bit. He didn't play that badly that he deserved to be humiliated like that.
We'll have to. Listen. I can only concur with percent.
I don't agree. The bit of the ignoring him is just. The icing on the cake just showed what an arse he is. That was just horrible, and there was no, and that's why he should never be near youth coaching. Should never coach kids because he clearly doesn't have a clue how to treat them. He's got no respect.
Now, clearly, but he offered 2 explanations.
That's what I mean. He couldn't even lie straight in bed afterwards.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. He said one thing. In his interview, and then post-match he said another thing, completely contradicted himself. So my feeling is, listen, just say I bought him off because I felt he was playing badly.
Yeah, I'd have had respect for him if he'd admitted if he'd just been honest from the start what he'd done.
Yeah. Because he said that what he said firstly in the interview was he bought him off because he wanted to waste some time.
Yeah, and he had lots of strikers to come on and all this, so he didn't know who'd... Well, like I said, you take off Calvert-Lewin so he can get an applause as he goes off, because he's had a good game.
Yeah, but if he's having I suppose at that stage you were saying he was...
Yeah, he was starting to... You could see he was starting to... he wasn't getting the touch of the ball, to be honest, at that point, because they were a bit... they were starting to... They were penned back.
So Duncan Ferguson, in his post-match post-match press conference, completely contradicted himself and said to the contrary. He said he bought him off because Moise Kean wasn't at the tempo of the game, or so wasn't up to the tempo of the game. So he said 2 completely different things in a matter of a few minutes, kind of thing.
And that's when it makes you think he's doing it just to prove he's the boss, because
that's where I take umbrage, and I can see where Keane will have chagrin. Now, you think he's lost Keane?
Well, Keane wanted to leave anyway. Mino Raiola's already been shopping him around, trying to get him a move.
And that's because he's been treated unfairly?
Well, he just was being ignored. I mean, you pay a lot of money for a player, you make all these promises, and then you just ignore him. Which is basically what's happened. You do nothing to help the lads. I mean, when you spend that kind of money, give a lad big wages and everything. You know what I mean? You're making promises to get him to sign for you because he had plenty of options. Yeah. You don't then just you make an effort for him, and he was just like he did nobody give a shit basically.
But what's the issue there? Is it a lack of love and affection on the part of Everton, or is it a lack of kind of aggression and passion and the lack of Keane? Is he not putting an effort into training, or do they think they got a lemon, or what? Because he's been prolific wherever in all levels of Italian football.
It's just he's struggling to settle, and he needed a bit of help, and he's not got it at all. It's not like Everton as well. I suppose they do this with foreign players they bring in. It's just sort of like leave and see if they'll either make it or they won't, and we'll just get rid of them if they don't. You know what I mean? It's quite it's not just Everton. That's a common Premier League thing, but a lot of them have started to improve. But Everton still seem to be stuck in the Moyes days, where it's just sink or swim. And, when you're putting as much money as Everton are spending at the moment, all their players are being thrown in and just, let's see if they sink or swim, rather than being the way I just don't really want to compare them with Liverpool, so I'm trying to think of somebody else. Chelsea, they have staff to help them, to look after them when they're signed from abroad.
Yeah, they have assimilation officers.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Assimilation officers, words even. Yeah, they have people there to help them and sort out, and if they're Italian, they'll help them find the right Italian restaurants, the food they like to eat, that kind of thing. With Liverpool, like when you buy a Brazilian, they've got all the other Brazilians will help. All the lads will help them. At Everton, that didn't seem to happen with Moise Kean. He just sort of been like, well, who is he sort of thing?
Yeah,
what I mean? He's not had that help.
I mean, he's had that horrible experience in Italy where he's been racially abused, and he's thinking, right, he's got a new start, new culture. It must have been exciting for him, and it's not worked out for him, and to have that happen to you on Saturday, especially as I got to reiterate, I don't have a problem with him being subbed, but what I do have a problem with is him being completely blanked in the eyes in front of the whole nation and the media, and that's going to be, and he knows, and it's all in the media now, and it's all going to be rehashed and replayed, and that must be sincerely.
It's just humiliation. It wasn't like a. Yeah. That's why it comes across as him just stamping his mark on it, and you just don't need to do that. If you're a strong man, you don't need to stamp your mark on it. That's crap bosses that do that. That's ones that shouldn't be in the job.
Yeah. So I understand that. I agree with. I mean, he should have, while he was coming off, he should have given him a hug, and he said, "Look, mate, I did what I did, but it's no hard feelings."
Yeah, it's all about the team. You know what I mean? That's
exactly.
That's the problem. Is it wasn't about. He didn't make it about the team. He made it about him.
Yeah, I get that. So you think Ancelotti in, Moise Kean out, and Duncan Ferguson?
Well, I don't know. Ancelotti might be the right man because he's very arm round the shoulder type. So maybe Moise Kean will stay if Ancelotti does take the role.
There you go, Italian and Italian.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether it's too late now, but if anyone could turn that round, I would say Ancelotti would be right for that.
No, you know what? I'd love to see Everton sign Ancelotti, to be honest with you, because they've been in the doldrums. I mean, good joking aside, they've been in the doldrums for such a long time, and this is probably the biggest thing that happened to them in hundreds of years. I
certainly wouldn't think it would be as bad as he was at Bayern, for instance, where he's got a top team and he's at it's a different level, and the players all look up to him and respond to him. So yeah, I think when you think about it, it wouldn't be so bad for Everton because he's such a big name and that. Yeah.
And obviously he's obviously been promised money to spend because he won't come otherwise. He's not just going to play with a bunch of academy kids. So
that's if he takes it. Yeah, it's not done yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But if he does come, and good for Everton. So it must be absolutely desperate for them heartbreaking to see them just never win a derby.
Oh, that reminds me. Win. While we're speaking of Everton, do you know what they did? My mum and dad are here, obviously staying at the moment. They were watching Sky News while I was working. I was doing the review of the day. They're watching Sky News, and Sky had an error. And what they did is they had the voiceover was saying Everton's new manager, and the picture was Boris Johnson walking out of number 10. So it was like, whoa, Boris Johnson's taken over at Everton. I said, at least he won't be Prime Minister, I suppose. So, isn't all bad.
Oh, boom, I like that. That's funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Oh.
That'll be on somebody will have that on a phone, or it'll be.
Well, I was thinking I should rewind it, let me record it on my phone, but But trying to explain to me dad which is the rewind button, I gave up in the end.
As I said to you, I was trying to explain WhatsApp to my wife the other day. That was
it's just not worth it.
No, mate, no, it really isn't. Anyway, so hopefully, for Everton's sake, Ancelotti is installed as their new manager, and they can go onwards and I was going to say upwards,
behind us. Well, they couldn't go much further down, could they?
Yeah, exactly. So just onwards, basically. Listen, mate, talking about clubs in complete disarray. Let's talk about Arsenal.
I wondered where you were going with that.
Listen, when you say clubs in disarray, club comes to mind, mate. To be honest.
Yeah, they are pretty much top of the pile when it comes to disarray, aren't they, these days?
Yeah, they define disarray. To be fair, they got an absolute tonking at the hand. City, I think Man City. They're looking to appoint, as of today, Arteta. I don't know, those guys at Arsenal TV must be pulling their hair out, fam, at the complete and utter ridiculousness of the state of the club at the moment. What do you think of Arteta?
Well, how does anyone know? He's been sat on the bench next to Guardiola doing as he's told for the last few years. I don't understand how anyone can judge whether he's the right choice or not. I mean, it could be inspired, or it could be an absolute disaster.
Like we said previous pods, I think personally they can't afford to take risks, and I think if they'd gone for him, again, it's a big if. It's nothing concrete. I mean, it's nothing confirmed at the moment as we speak, but is it because he's going to go there because the Cronkies know that he's just grateful for a big job and he won't spend money? Or I don't know what the situation is.
Because... like I said to you, they've already had Ancelotti and Marcelino saying about, I'm not working with those, will you work with the players you've got? So that's what they're asking for. Someone to come in and use the players they've got. Because they overspent in the summer. You've got to remember, they've spent out of their cash reserves. They didn't want to do that.
Tristan, just explain to me, right? And for me, educate me and enlighten me. And I'm sure there's other people, other Arsenal fans and other football fans that want to know about this crappy structure that Eds 002 keeps going on about. And elaborate on it, and what's so crappy about it? Why is it crappy? What's the situation?
Because it's not clearly defined roles.
What's going on? What is going on? I mean, just dumb it down for us.
Basically, the easiest way to look at it is there's a lot of people having more than one, having roles that overlap each other. So everybody's kind of nothing's actually one man's responsibility to sort out. There's 3 or 4 of them in there. So you've got a lot of kooks stirring the broth.
So Eds 002 is saying that basically that managers are looking at that job and thinking no thanks, and they think, well, why? I mean,
for starters, you've got the up above is a mess. Secondly, you've got an owner who doesn't give a shit about winning. Doesn't give a toss about winning. He's only there to make sure that the club makes a profit. That's all he's interested in. He doesn't give a toss. Yeah, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to spend money.
He doesn't want to spend money, and he doesn't want to sell. So what's going on there? What's that?
He just wants to make a profit out of it. And like I said, the reason why they had huge cash reserves is because he could use them to get a lower rate loan collateral when he bought other things. When he bought other projects, such as a huge ranch, stuff like that.
And his American football team and stuff like that. No, he
already owned them.
Okay,
first, but that's how he bought Arsenal, was using the collateral of having them in huge profit. You know what I mean? So he doesn't want to win. He's not interested in winning. He's only interested in making money and keep things ticking over. Keep the ground full. The rest doesn't matter.
Why doesn't he sell?
Because he's making money.
He'd make lots of money if he sold, no?
Yeah, but he can make money for the next 60 years if he doesn't.
Gotcha.
If he sells, he gets one lot of money. Well, he doesn't really... To be honest, he doesn't really need the money anyway, but
he keeps ticking over this way, yeah. It's guaranteed money.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you sell it, you've got a huge tax bill there to pay.
Right. Now, talk to me about the structure. Why is it so crappy?
Well, like I said, there's a lot of overlapping people, so nobody's actually sure who's doing what. Who to answer to.
So there's no blueprint, there's no guidance, there's no directive.
No, who's answering to who? I mean, is it Josh Kroenke who's there? He's there putting his finger in as well, You've got that Rouse what's his name? Is it Rouse Sandley? Or is he the one that left? I forget. Whichever one left, that's why he left, because it was a mess,
The guy they recruited from Borussia Dortmund, right?
Well, they recruited two, didn't they? Rouse oh, God.
Simonet or something. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they recruited two. Yeah. One left because of the mess, and the other one's still trying to sort it out. You know what I mean? The recruitment's a joke. They've got they're not got a lot to spend. The players they've got are crap. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why you wouldn't want to take over at Arsenal. I mean, most of them want to go. Most of the players they've got don't want to be there.
So managers don't even want a payday there. They just want to stay clear of it.
Well, I mean, it's all very well saying take play, but do you want to ruin your reputation by going in there and failing? Because you're not going to succeed, are you? It's almost impossible. So
Marcelino's had a look at that and said no thanks.
He doesn't really want to win. If you let him buy the kind of players he wants, I mean, it's not even like talking about picking, but doesn't want to work with them. I mean, there's no heart and soul there. There's no fight in them.
Yeah.
Did you not watch? I mean, Kolasinac ducked out of the way of a shot at the weekend against City. He could have stopped that. He ducks under. Well, he might not have stopped it if it had stayed up. I mean, it's hard to tell because he ducks under it. He's a defender. Just stand up and take that out. But then I suppose when you're coached by Per Mertesacker, whose most famous quality is ducking out of the way of shots, I suppose you're doing as you're told, aren't you?
You're doing your job, aren't you? Yeah. Now, I think this is a good time to talk about Ozil. A superb player on his day, world-class talent on his day, is just absolutely...
Yeah, but what's he done to deserve to be out throwing his gloves away, as Genius would say, eh? I mean, he's only won a World Cup. What's he done? I mean...
And the Bundesliga and La Liga, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What's he done?
Entitled. He's so entitled, that Ozil.
Yeah, he's got no right to tell people what he thinks or to complain about the other players. I mean... What does he know?
Jermaine Janus. What's he won? A game, 3 points he's won once.
Yeah, I can't.
He won a Premiership game
He hasn't
once.
won anything, has he? Has he won anything? Does he have a single trophy on his record? I don't know. He certainly doesn't have a World Cup.
Mate, I think that the Ozil situation it's sad to see. You've got a superb player there going to it. I mean, it really is sad to see. And I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know Ozil. I don't know advisors or family friends, but I'm assuming Ozil's just there because nobody else is going to give him the contract he's on, which is sad, really.
That is the problem at the last few years, that nobody else will pay him what he, anywhere near as much. Sadly.
I mean, you're gonna at that age. You're lucky if you'll get half of £350,000 he's on a week, and I can understand why he's there still. I really do. I mean, who would?
But he gets the thing I don't understand. When he shows he cares, he gets crucified by the fans, and then they complain he doesn't look like he cares when he's on the pitch, and he can't win.
Well, and the fact remains, he's not Superman. He needs 10 other players doing their bit as well. Because you stick him in a Liverpool side, I bet it'd be a different kettle of...
Well, I've seen him chase back to right back slot because Bellerin had gone walkabout and was literally strolling back. Ozil sprinted back, must have sprinted 60, 70 yards back, won the ball, took the ball up 10, 15 yards, sprinted up, played it to Bellerin, who was still 20 yards up the pitch, still virtually by the halfway line, played a 1-2 with Bellerin, got the ball back, played another ball, and somebody played the ball way ahead of him, expecting him to chase after it, and he stopped. Like, you could see his legs had gone. He must have sprinted about 80 yards by this point, and the commentators started calling him a lazy good for not. See, that's the problem with this Ozil. He doesn't want to do the running and all this, and I'm thinking, God a sec, he's just sprinted all the way back to cover because the right back was out of position, and then he'd come back up and he'd not said, while the right back's still strolling back, and he's managed to run past him again going forward, and he's the lazy one. He's a target. They really do hate him for some reason.
I really hope he gets I hope he gets a move to rejuvenate his career, because I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I don't think he's never gonna be. It doesn't matter what he does there; they're never gonna take to him because the media are on his back. He needs to leave England.
Yeah, I think a move to Spain or Germany would be prudent for him, and I feel for him because he's at a shambles of a club. He's got 2 or 3 players that are half decent. I mean, not half decent. I mean, Lacazette and Aubameyang are good players. So he's got those other 2, but he can hardly get a game. And the rest of them are a pony.
Mm. Well, he's back in the team now under Freddie Ljungberg, but the team's a mess. So what's it matter?
Exactly, and he's still got to play up. His confidence is shot as well. He's got and he's like that as well. He's very. I mean, he's had people on his back. The German nation were on his back. So he's always had people on his back, and I feel for him. He's always fighting somebody.
He's always the blame. He's the
exactly.
It's a bit like Jordan Henderson at Liverpool. No matter what happens, it's always him. He's the scapegoat. It's always his fault.
He's the scapegoat. Yeah. Oh well, mate. Let's hope that improves his situation and Arsenal's. To be fair, because it's sad to see such a great club in the doldrums. All right. This was a funny one. Inter Milan cancelling their press conference over a letter printed in Corriere dello Sport.
It's just mental. I mean, Conte threw his toys out the pram because they printed a letter in there from a Bologna fan who basically said he doesn't get. I mean, in not so many words, he said that Conte's getting lauded over there for all. They're saying he plays beautiful football. This guy's saying basically, but his football's crap. I don't understand why you're all raving about him. He's never played good football. It's tedious to watch. I can't stay, and all this, basically, this Bologna fan. And then the editorial agreed with him, basically. Said,
Corriere dello Sport editorial said, yeah, we hear you.
It just backed up his opinion. Yeah, I see, he doesn't play good football. So, not in so many words, obviously. It's not quite like that. I mean, but they called it offensive letter and cancelled the press conference with any team. It wasn't just like said to Corriere dello Sport, you're not welcome here. They've just cancelled their pre-match press conference over it and called it offensive. And I just thought, it's not really that offensive.
Well, he's right, to be honest. He's got a bit of a point, but he's the top of the... So he actually plays turgid football, but he gets results.
Awful.
But that's what Conte is, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
So what? Inter Milan have not just banned Corriere dello Sport at the press conference; they banned all.
They just cancelled it. Yeah, he didn't. Conte refused to go and speak to anyone.
That's a bit sensitive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just bizarre. I didn't see I didn't see it as from what I mean. Obviously, like maybe something's got missed in translation. I read because I couldn't see a problem with it. Just thought you just, man up and get on with it, don't you?
Absolutely. Interesting stuff. That Serie A table's looking interesting. Juve and Inter
for a
Milan.
change.
Yeah, exactly. At least he's gone in there and mixed it up a bit as Conte. So fair play to him, mate. Might play horrible football, but he's
gets results.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, mate. Roman Zozaloya. Elaborate. I have no idea.
I was really waiting for you to pronounce that one. Yeah, basically, this Ukrainian international, Roman Zozaloya, it's playing for a team called Albacete in the Spanish second tier now. And they were playing Rayo Vallecano.
Right.
The game had to be called off at half-time. Both teams asked the referee to cancel it because he was getting abuse and threats and chants of being a Nazi from the Rayo Vallecano fans. And so the game's got completely, got abandoned at half-time. And but there's a lot more to it than just it's a one-off. In 2017, he'd actually gone there on loan, signed a deal to go there on loan, joined the team. Within hours, there was the Rayo fans were all protesting that there's no place for a Nazi at our club and this till they got him out the club. And basically, within hours, the loan move was cancelled, and he went back. And he wrote a letter saying he wrote an open letter to their fans saying, "No, it's a misunderstanding. I'm not aligned with far right groups at all. It's just a misunderstanding with a journalist." I don't know whether it is or not. I mean, I've seen that Spanish friends of my mum and dad have posted up stuff on like Facebook showing him, but they've put pictures of him photoshopped next to far right stuff. None of it's actually in the picture they showed. There's nothing there. It's like, I don't know why. They've shown a picture of him in like an army setup, like as if he's like in the Ukrainian army or something. But I don't know what that's got to do with. I don't know. There's no real context there. They're just pictures of him with weapons and stuff like that. He could have been conscripted in the army for all I know. So I've no idea whether there's any any truth behind this shout, but it just seems a really bizarre thing.
You don't know if there's any credence in it at all.
No, you can't tell whether it's true or not. But like, it just seems really bizarre that they've actually had the game called off halfway through because of it. Like, and they'd had his loan move cancelled previously.
Very, very weird goings on. Anyway, talking about racism. The Serie A No to Racism campaign.
Oh yeah,
which has monkey faces on its posters. I am not understanding the Italian.
No, I looked at it and I just, when you look at it, you think that can't be a. Why? It doesn't even make sense. It's on the top. It says No to Racism. Then the poster is one monkey face with paint, with a painted face. And another one below that with a painted face, and then another one below that with a painted face. And the message No to Racism, and it's just like, why? I'm not sure the message is getting across to the Italian FA about racism, let alone them sending a message to everybody about racism. This is beyond. This isn't. Clearly, it's not funny, but there's got to be something that's not clicking. It's are they taking the piss now? They must be taking the piss. Well, this is why the teams have said we're no longer, we're going to do our own anti-racism campaign because, we're going to have to do something about it because you're not, basically.
For me, what they're doing is they're just putting fingers to the rest of the world and saying, look, we're fascists, we're racist, and there's nothing you can do about it. And look, we're going to take the piss out of you as well.
It does seem. It is really odd. I mean, even when you read the explanation where the guy who painted it is, the guy who designed it always paints monkey faces, and he said he heard them doing monkey chants, so he decided, this is wrong, so I'm going to paint. This is why I painted them, and the one on the top has a certain facial features like a white person, and the one on the bottom's got certain facial features like an Asian, and the one in the middle's got certain facial features like he's black. And you read it and you're thinking, oh my God, this isn't helping. You know what I mean? This explanation this doesn't make it any better. You know what I mean?
You can't advocate because there's no shape or form you can advocate for, because at any point, any PR manager or marketing manager say, look, you know what, this is very offensive to some people. and we can't print this. We can't do this as a campaign. But so that's why I'm thinking they're actually putting two fingers up to the whole to the world and saying we're doing it on purpose. This isn't even a mistake, or isn't just ironic or whatever, you know.
I just don't. I couldn't tell you, mate. I've gone back to it's just beggars belief, basically now.
It's at a stage where I'm thinking they can't be even racist and dumber than they are, and then they do.
Yeah, exactly. It's bizarre.
All right, mate. Moving on. Talking about Serie A, one of their most beloved players, Ezequiel Lavezzi, retiring.
Yeah. From China, he was playing in China for the last few years, but yeah, he was quality at one point, weren't he? Highest paid player in the world when he went to China.
China, yeah.
£650,000 a week or something he was on when he first moved there.
That is absolutely...
It's weird. I'd get out of bed for that in the morning. And I don't get out of bed for anything in the morning.
I'd get into your bed for that type of money.
No, you wouldn't. No, they couldn't even pay me enough to have you in my bed. No.
650,000 a week. I'd give you a cuddle, mate.
No, I'd need more than that to be anywhere near you.
Oh my God!
Again,
650 grand a week. Jeez.
I know. It's not bad work if you can get it, is it?
Do you know how many full kits that I buy you?
I couldn't even begin to work it out because I've no idea how much they cost these days.
Oh yeah, you get them free, don't you?
Well, I did. Right, they've shut down, so. Miserable gets.
Hey, Iheanacho getting subbed for unsportsmanlike behaviour.
Yeah, because you didn't see this, did you? So.
No, I heard about it, but I didn't really pay any attention to it.
So Leicester playing Norwich,
and they bore me.
Yeah, Well, Leicester were playing Norwich. Norwich are doing well. Players down injured. There was two of them down, so they booted the ball out of play for to get treatment for their players. Leicester players, this treatment taken a while. It might have even been when Pukki broke his toe, actually, because he broke his toe midway through the game and played on, didn't he? Might have even been that point.
Yes, I know that, yeah. So, and he missed a few chances with a broken toe.
Still scored, though. But anyway, so he's whoever's down, it took a while for treatment, and then restarted with a Leicester throw, because obviously Norwich booted it out. Everyone's expecting them to just throw it back to the keeper, give it back to the keeper. So they throw it into Iheanacho, and he just runs at the defence. And he gets all the way up to the edge of the penalty. He must have run 20, 25 yards, sprinting away. He was going for it. It wasn't like he was just jogging forward and then going to pass it or anything. He was going for it. He jinked past a defender who ended up just hacking him down because, he's too late to react by this point. He was just so surprised. So all these the Norwich players, are all surrounding him and, furious. I thought he's going to get he's going to get a kick in here on the ground, but they managed to break it up before that. And then Brendan Rodgers took him pretty much straight off after that, which I thought, fair play, Brendan. You know what I mean? He could have done nothing about it. But the odd thing was, they restarted. It looked like he'd given a free kick to Leicester because clearly, Leicester player got fouled. But then it seemed to restart with a goal kick. It was really bizarre. I don't know what decision he gave. Must have told them, Leicester just give him the ball back. But what was Iheanacho even thinking?
What was going through that young man's head to do that?
He had. It wasn't like it was just like it had stopped for a couple of seconds and he didn't see what was happening. It was stopped for a good couple of minutes while he was getting treated. So we had plenty of time to understand. It reminded me. I remember when Arsenal did it and Wenger made them give the game, replay the game. Or Bielsa last season, who made Leeds go and allow them to score at the other end.
Yes, but I wonder if he can get punished for that retrospectively.
Well, he got booked.
Yeah.
He should have. But he has to be because it's unsportsmanlike conduct. It is. It has to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it was just. I mean, you just watch it thinking, what is he doing? And you're thinking, I'm not being funny, but if I was on the pitch, I wouldn't have been. I don't know if I would have been able to stop myself from giving him a good kick in myself. You know what I mean? You had to have sympathy with the Norwich players for wanting to give him a hiding in that respect.
Yeah, that's one of the things that would infuriate you.
You can understand when it's one of those where the player's just been rolling around on the floor for 20 minutes, get the treatment on, and clearly he's not injured. This was a definite, he was injured, and he'd been down for a while, and somebody else got picked up a knock as well, and they booted the ball out of play.
Poor form by Iheanacho, mate. Poor form. Mate, moving on, eBay hit and run.
Ibe
hit and run.
Yeah.
I've never ever been able to pronounce that. Ibe.
I know it's a bit difficult for you. 3 letters, it's a bit much for you.
3 letters, yeah.
Yeah, one syllable. Jordan it's beyond you, isn't it?
Jordan Ibe's hit and run.
Yeah, you know what happened, don't you? Do you know the actual story with this one?
No, mate, I don't know.
What happened was one night he was out in his car. I don't know whether he was drunk or what. I don't know what he was doing, but he rammed his car into a cafe in London. His Range Rover or whatever it was, and drove off afterwards. But he left he left bits of the car there because he'd smashed it off in the cafe, like, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And that's how they caught him. Well,
right.
So now he's claiming that he sat there for ages, but they've got witnesses said no, he didn't. You know what I mean? He said, but he sat there for an appropriate length of time, and it's like, well, what's an appropriate length of time? If you've just hit something, you should be there till the police arrive. I mean, he should have phoned the police and waited there till because it's a crash.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the basic rule. I remember a mate of mine lost his license because he had a.
That's the law.
Yeah. Well, all he had was a car. He was driving a lorry with a car transporter lorry. The car fell off the back. You know, not a car transport. The recovery wagons from, picked up a broken down car, hitched it onto the back, was driving down the road at 3 o'clock in the morning, not another car around. The car came off the back, just fell off the things, and he had to stop. So he stopped, hitched it back up again, drove off. Because there was nobody else involved in that, he thought he didn't have to stop and call the police. But somebody phoned said they'd seen a car crash, and he lost his license over it because he didn't report it. And didn't stop at the scene, leaving the scene of an accident and that.
So basically, I will get a high-powered attorney and he'll get away with it.
More than likely.
Pretty much, yeah. What was I going to say to you? Next, we have the new. What do you want to talk about? Zlatan or first?
Should we we might as well do Newcastle quick first while we're on it.
Yeah.
Them giving away
Go for it, mate.
Giving away free tickets to what? Basically, it's telling the season ticket because they're only getting half full stadiums at the moment because of the fan protests. So they're telling those season ticket holders that are going, they're protesting against the slimy, horrible thing that owns the club. So there's only like 40,000 people when it's a 56,000 seater stadium. So and basically they've said now, Newcastle is anybody who's got a season ticket, if you want another ticket for free, just recommend someone they can have a ticket for free, so for the rest of the season.
Wow.
That's desperation, that is, isn't it?
That's and all because he won't sell up.
Mm.
It's not in his interest to sell up. I mean, why should he?
No, the advertising around the world for his jumbo sale empire is worth too much, isn't it?
Listen. As much as I want him out as much as the next man, but he doesn't have to sell. It's not. Nobody has a right for him to force him to sell his property.
No, but they're supposed to be football clubs and they shouldn't be being owned in the first place. This is the thing people forget, is the actual FA by rules forbid ownership by company anyway. They're supposed to be clubs. The only reason it's been turned a blind eye to, because it wasn't originally, quite a few clubs tried to sell, go on, float on the stock market and were banned from doing so by the FA until Spurs decided they wanted to do it. And obviously they're the FA's favourite club, so they were allowed to do what they wanted. They needed some extra money to spend in the transfer market, so they floated their, they floated a holding company on the stock market.
So change the rules then, because you can't.
Well, no, the rules were still in place.
Yeah,
it's just Spurs just ignored it because they're Spurs and they could do what they want.
But that's my point with Ashley. He can do what he wants. He owns the.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they should. You're saying they're supposed to be football clubs. He shouldn't be. You couldn't do this in the Bundesliga, for instance.
I understand, but the rules. I mean, whether you agree with the.
No, they should apply the rules. The actual. By which state they can't be owned.
But then they changed the rule for Spurs, so obviously they can be.
No, they didn't change it. They just turned a blind eye. Just stopped enforcing it.
Okay.
They stopped enforcing it. They could enforce it, but then teams like Liverpool would be in the same boat as well.
Absolutely.
All of them would be these days. But I just think the guy's a horrible man. I've got no sympathy with him whatsoever.
Nobody, I'm sure, 99.9%. Don't, but the fact remains it's his property. He can do what he wants with it.
Yeah, he can, but the fans don't have to go and watch it.
Yeah, true.
And they're quite they're quite within their rights to protest against what he's doing to them.
Absolutely, and I hope they.
I'm fully on their side.
Yeah, and I hope their protests are they work and they see him out of the club because obviously he's going to sell. If he's losing money, he's not going to stay.
That's what they should have done from the start. But what happens is every time they started, in the past when they started this not going to the games, he'd come out with a rumour stating he was about to sell. Or
Rafa would win a few games in a row.
No, they stayed for Rafa. They were there for Rafa. They were full. There was full houses for Rafa. This is because Rafa's gone. That's what started the protests. Because he let Rafa go. That was the final straw.
All of these sales pretty much have been pie in the sky, or is it because?
No, he's never had any intention. They've always been bull.
Right. All right, mate. Zlatan's statue being desecrated again.
Yeah, those Malmo fans really don't like Zlatan anymore. So apart from putting toilet seats on his head and bags over his head and spray painting it, setting it on fire, now they tried to saw through the legs and there was a rope round the neck where they were obviously trying to pull it over, and they've had to fence it off because they're worried it might fall over on its own.
Mate, every single week there's a new body part. I wonder what's next.
It can't be much longer before they just think we're just going to have to take it down, surely.
Exactly. Next, I think next week it will just be a shoulder or something.
Yeah, just be the base it stood on will be left.
Yeah. Mate, Champions League draw. Napoli's tweet after drawing Barcelona in the Champions League.
Yeah, that's class, isn't it? For all those that don't know, they tweeted best start practicing corners. Or words to that effect. Obviously, in reference to what happened to them last season with the Trent Alexander-Arnold ball to Divock Origi.
Yeah, mate. I just for that, I wish they go beat Barca because Barca are not good at the moment.
I know.
Really not.
And how are they still joint top on points with Real Madrid? The two teams are dire.
Well, yeah, because they're pretty much keeping Zinedine Zidane in a job. Because most other leagues, somebody'd run away with that. How poor Barcelona are. It's just that Madrid are even as bad as them.
That's what's keeping Zinedine in the job.
Oh, mate, yeah. You know what? Honestly, I don't see that as an easy draw for Barcelona. I really don't.
I don't know. Gattuso's in charge. You forgot, didn't you?
I just forgot. Yeah, we'd only been talking about Ancelotti getting a sack for 45 minutes.
Yeah, don't worry about it, mate. It's all right. I'm used to you're old and see now. It's just like talking to my parents, this is, except you're older.
Yeah. That's the amnesia and the dementia's kicking, mate. I need Ben Foster.
Yeah, well, I don't think even he could help you.
True. Boom, boom. All right, mate. Let's finish up on a bit of a funny. Bakayoko being subbed.
Oh, I love how you say that. Yeah. Yeah, he's always had 16 as his shirt number. But this year he's gone out on loan to Monaco. Somebody already had 16, so he's got a different number. But he'd forgotten this. So when they held up the number 16 to come off as a substitute for, at the weekend, he starts trotting over to the sidelines. Like, Jardim's going, what are you doing? Fiore, what are you doing? Like, and he reaches the sideline and he stood there waiting to come off. And Jardim's having to hold him off and say to him, no, not you. You're not 16. And it's at that point he suddenly twigs on, and he just bursts out laughing and runs off like.
Mate, I'm gonna Google that as soon as we get off
here. Even his reaction on social media afterwards, he said, just give me my number back.
Mate, I am gonna Google that as soon as we finish up here, mate. That is absolutely hilarious. What's he playing like at Monaco? Bakayoko.
Well, it's all right. Well, they didn't want to take him off, so that suggests he's doing all right, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Mate, on that note, let's call it an evening.
All right, mate. See you next Thursday.
See you next Thursday, pal.
Yeah, I got him before you.
Yeah.